Oh, I feel it. Oh, I feel it in my chest.
Settle in as we delve into personal growth and all things spirituality, bringing connection to all divinity in the most humane.
Hello, and welcome back to episode 5 of Mindfully Blissed. I'm so thankful and grateful that you're here and tuning in to these little pieces of me. Today's episode is going to be all about my Sacred Secretion Fast. I've taken some time to actually let what happened integrate into my life and really have some clarity around what I actually experienced and how to move forward with what I experienced into the next month. And my next Sacred Secretion Fast coming up on the 8th of February, I believe, is my first day. The 4th, February 4th, after breakfast, I think I go into my first, phase of the fasting, getting into my fast before the moon goes into my sun sign. There we go. I thought that I was going to report back like right away after my fast. If you didn't catch my first episode about the Sacred Secretion and Christos and Christ oil and Kundalini Awakening, maybe go back and listen to that video, but I'll kind of just like recap a little bit here. I started learning about Sacred Secretion fasting about a year ago. And it was like my New Year's resolution of 2023 that I was going to start implementing this fasting. And I was kind of just weirded out about it at first. And I wasn't sure my husband would be on board and things like that. And so I had all this inner dialogue and whatnot in my head, and I just didn't do it. And so this January 2024, I decided that it was something really important to me. I'd done a lot of research over the year about it, and I decided that it was something that I needed to try for myself. I needed to experience this for myself. And what Sacred Secretion fasting is doing is clearing out your temple with any fast, any kind of a fast that you're doing. You're cleaning out your body. You're allowing your body to not have to do tasks like digesting food and breaking down food and, sorting where all these, things go. And a lot of our food here in America, at least in the United States of America, that is, we have a lot, and I mean a lot of toxins in our food. Like, it is my belief that our government is poisoning us, keeping us poisoned, to be more controllable, to then fund, American hospitals and, all the things, big pharmaceuticals. So that's my personal belief. And so when we ingest those things into our body doesn't know what to do with them, with all the chemicals and toxins that are in our food. It doesn't know how to break them down properly. So then it's making our body have to work harder to do things. But our body naturally wants to keep us in a natural state of healthiness. So it's constantly working in our favor to make us healthy. But if we're constantly bombarding our body with bad things or toxic things, our body doesn't ever get a chance to actually like heal itself because it's just busy like digesting the food that we're putting in it. So the purpose of fasting is to allow our body space to not have to do the digesting part of it, but to then go into the different parts of our bodies that need attention. So when we go into things like the Sacred Secretion fasting, then we get into more scientific connection to source, and it all starts in our pineal gland. So every single month each of us have this opportunity. That's why astrology comes in handy to then understand when the moon goes into our specific sun sign. And that's our green light to go to come into a fasting period where our body can then drop the milk and honey from our pineal gland and our pituitary gland. I always have a hard time saying that word, pituitary gland. And so those two oils, the Christos, goes down our spine, and then we have to raise it back up. So when the moon goes into our sun sign, we then have to be very mindful and come into a state of fasting to clean our temple, because our body is our temple. It's our home. It's the resting place of our soul. So we go through this fasting period, and we want to be mindful and meditate and set intentions every day, multiple times a day, to keep us in this state of calm, clarity, restfulness. So that's just a little like recap on what sacred secretion fasting is. Now, I did 84 hours, 84 and a half hours to be exact, but 84 hours. And I was so stinking proud of myself. So I went into a fasting like the day before the moon entered my sun sign. And then it was 2.5 days. So it was technically 3.5 days of fasting. And that is the story that's in the Bible of Jesus Christ. We have 33 vertebrae to represent his age when he was crucified, because when the milk and honey gets released, it has to climb back up the 33 vertebrae. And then when it reaches back up to the pineal gland, then you have this Kundalini Awakening, Christ consciousness experience, where you are then resurrected. Your body is resurrected and becomes anew. And so that's the story of Jesus's journey from Bethlehem down to, or is it Nazareth down to Bethlehem and back up? Anyways, I'm not a Bible scholar by any means, but wherever he was he born in Bethlehem, or was he born in Nazareth and then goes down to Bethlehem and then has to come back up? Anyways, whatever. But that's the story. It's so cool. That's the story of Jesus Christ inside our body. It's so beautiful, and it's so clear to me. And if it's still a little bit like, I'm not sure about that, Stace, then just go ahead and do a little bit of research yourself, just in the YouTube, right? Sacred Secretion, Christos, Kundalini Awakening. You'll get so many people telling their stories and their experiences with it. And I just think it's the coolest thing ever. And it's free to do, and it's easy to do. And I'm excited to share. I have my notes down here. I just kind of jotted some things down to kind of keep myself on track. The whole purpose of this podcast is to just really like delve into what I experienced, how I did it in detail. So that way, if you feel called to do this for yourself, that you have more knowledge to then embark on this journey for yourself. So I hope this really helps. That's my intention, is that this reaches whoever it needs to reach, whether it be one person or 500 people. That is my intention for this. So within those 84 hours, I consumed 192 calories, give or take. And those 192 calories came from grapes and organic coconut almond milk blend. I think I was perfect like the first day. The first day was so stinking easy. I don't even there's not really much to talk about on day one, other than I had my 1 cup of black coffee. I didn't want to have full blown migraines or headaches, because prior to this, I was a heavy coffee drinker. So I was bombarding my body with caffeine every single morning, and I could start to feel it. So, but I didn't want the headaches and migraines that come with just stopping caffeine cold turkey. So I allowed myself 1 cup of black coffee in the morning. And then that first day I was nothing, no food. I sat at the dinner table with my husband and Kinsley, and it wasn't a big deal. I was totally cool fasting for a day, just drinking water and then my 1 cup of black coffee. And then on day 2, I poured myself the same black coffee, and I got about halfway done with the cup of coffee, and I was just kind of man, oh man, I'm not liking the way my body feels. I started becoming hyper aware of what my body was telling me. And it was getting this like anxiety, fluttering feeling. And I was like, oof, I don't want to do this. So I only had half a cup of coffee on day 2, and I felt fantastic the rest of the day, only on that little bit of caffeine. Now I had some tea, uncaffeinated tea throughout the day. And that's when I had my first little bit of coconut milk in my tea with my 4 sigmatic mushroom supplement blend for balance and calmness and stress relief and things like that. So trying to keep my body in a state of peace and restfulness and calm while going through all of this. Hold on one second while I sip my cacao. Cacao, just a little side note. Ceremonial grade cacao is so heart opening. It really helps open up our heart space and brings like a sense of calm over your body. It has no sweetness whatsoever. It is like the purest form of chocolate. So I just kind of doctor it up with some raw honey and some, what did I put in there today? Raw honey, cardamom, cinnamon, and cayenne, and then topped it with some homegrown and dried rose petals. It is like my favorite little like cup of happiness. Like, who doesn't want to drink like honey sweetened chocolate? It's like so good. But anyway, side note. So then let's see, on night 2, that's when I had my first bit of food. I had 10 grapes. I allowed myself to have 10 grapes. I was, night 2, I did excuse myself from the dinner table. That was like incredibly hard. That's when it started getting hard, was like towards the end of day 2. I was smelling all the smells that from dinner, and I was like, I can't do it. I'm going to go meditate. So I went and did like 45 minutes of meditation, laying down on my bed, and that felt so amazing. And then I just felt like this whole new refreshing feeling. My body, or my belly, was starting to like feel hot, and like you could definitely tell like you're hungry by day 2. And I didn't want to go to bed feeling that feeling, because I don't know if you guys have ever fasted before, but when you go to bed with that feeling of hunger, it's like really hard to go to sleep. So I had 10 grapes, and let me tell you how grateful I was for those grapes. I don't even remember the last time I sat that heavily in gratitude for food. And that's one thing I really want people to take away from this, is we almost have became so like obviously like reliant on food, and just kind of like it's a normal thing, that we're not grateful for our food. And that's where we kind of become disconnected, I think, as humans, to our food source, when we stop being grateful. And so I know a lot of like religion does, prayer. They pray before their meals and things like that. And if you're not, I'm not a religious person, and so I don't really like pray before my meal and whatnot, like the typical prayers. But what I do, not always out loud, but in my head, always say how grateful I am for this meal before I eat it. And I think that's something that's really important. So whether you're religious or not, like just take a moment to say thank you and be grateful for the food that's in front of you, because there are people in the world that don't have food, and there's always something to be grateful for. Whether it is like 5 crackers and some slices of cheese, like be grateful for what you have in front of you, right? Always, no matter what. So day 2, I had my 10 grapes and then went to bed. I also wanted to let everybody know, in case you don't know, I do partake in smoking marijuana. It's not a terrible for you drug. It doesn't leave you like feeling like addicted per se. I think the habit of it can be addicting, but itself, like obviously I went the 4 days without smoking any pot. So it's not like I was fiending for it and like, things like that. It really just kind of unlocks parts of your brain that you might not be aware that you have. And so it's such an enlightening plant, herb, if you will. And it just like I said, it opens up different parts of your brain. So that way you can like experience like different parts of yourself and like this beautiful world we live in. And I'm not condoning, just a little side note right here. I am not condoning the use of any like alternative drugs. This is for educational purposes only. So yeah, I didn't smoke any weed this whole time either. So like hardly any caffeine and no smoking weed. Those are big shocks to your system when you're, not really ready for them. So I'll just say sleeping this whole time, I didn't get very much sleep. It was very broken. I don't remember my dreams very much at all, but I could tell that when I was able to sleep, man, like I felt like I was in some crazy wild dreams. But the second I, open my eyes, it's really hard to remember. It's really hard to remember much of my dreams with too much like vividness. So that's kind of a bummer. And I'm really hoping that the more I do this, the more I can just clean out my body, clean out my system, and I can start actually like remembering my dreams and even like go into things like astral projection and remote viewing and things like that we all have the capability of doing. We just need to like undo all this like programming and stuff in our brains to be able to access it. So that's another part of this journey that I'm trying to tap into these powers that we all have and these capabilities that we all have, because they're like magic. They're like I watch and listen to all of these people talk about their testimonies and their experiences, and it's like, if you can experience that, I can experience that. And if I can experience that, you watching this can experience that. And so I hope this also leaves you very curious and wanting to do your own research on these things. Okay, let's see. Let's get into some not so fun details. So with any kind of fasting, when you can fast more than just like the 16 hours, you've probably seen like in the like health and fitness areas, they talk a lot about fasting too. And so they'll teach like 16-8 or fasting for 12 hours and not for 10, and like all these different things depending on like your age and weight and what your goals are and stuff like that. So if you're gonna embark on a longer fast, like over 36 hours, it becomes like a detox. So you're literally detoxing your entire body. All your cells are like pushing everything out. So when that's happening, it can only come out one of two ways, right? So day 2, during the day, I had a lot of lower GI upset, and I was going to the bathroom a lot. I'm glad that I wiped my whole schedule pretty much clean for these 4 days. So that way, whatever needed to come up, I was able to like get to a bathroom or whatnot. So that was really interesting. I believe I just woke up in like the middle of the night and had to like get sick. I don't know why. But it was super, super crazy. I think it was like 2 something in the morning, and I just felt like I had to get sick. And then the rest of the next day was just like, it was all coming out, and it had nothing to do with dehydration, because this whole time I was focusing on trying to get a gallon of water in, and I was taking pink Himalayan salt for all my minerals and things like that. If you don't know about true hydration, if you don't have the proper like mineral content in your body, then all this water that you're taking in isn't actually going to go into your cells. It's just going to flush out in your pee. And that's why you pee so much. But if you start taking like a pinch or two a day of pink Himalayan salt or Redmond's real salt, that's like my favorite, or they have like Celtic sea salt, anything that's a pure salt that's not refined and still has its pure minerals and things like that still in them, that's what you want. Our body needs minerals and things like that more so than anything. And so when you have the right minerals in your body will actually absorb the water that you're taking in, and then your body is actually properly hydrated. And I can tell now, I'll get headaches if I don't have a pinch of salt, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I have a headache. And Mal will be like, did you take your salt today? No. So it's always so funny. And it's funny that, you can know this. I have this knowledge of taking my salt every day, but there's days that I don't. I'm human. We're all human. We make mistakes. We forget things, yada, yada. There's nothing wrong with that. But you pay the consequences when you don't do the things you know that you need to do. So I try to be really good about that because nobody likes to have headaches, and I like to be properly hydrated. So yeah, day 2 was a lot of going to the bathroom. But after that day, everything was regular. Everything was on point. I felt so clean. On day 3, I woke up feeling so clean. Now, I was very tired. I was drained. So by day 3, all I had on my schedule that day was one haircut, which is only about 30 minutes long. And I got through that, and the rest of the day was just laying low because your girl was exhausted. It became harder. So I had grapes 2 times that day. I had grapes for dinner, and I had grapes in the morning, or like mid-afternoon ish, like late morning, afternoon. Because I typically, like, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you guys, but typically my day always starts fasted. I usually skip breakfast. I just drink like 1 or 2 cups of coffee in the morning, typically only 1. And then I'll have a bunch of water, and I won't really have my first meal until somewhere between like anywhere from 10:30 in the morning to, I don't know, sometimes not even till 1 o'clock. Just depending on the day and what I'm doing and, how busy I am. The more busy that I keep myself mentally, the less I focus on needing food, which is really good. Like, our body doesn't need all of this food. Our body doesn't need to eat 3 times a day. And like all of this, that goes into the programming. There'll probably be a podcast episode talking about programming, because that's everything from the age of 0 to 7 is permanently programmed into our subconscious from like our grandparents, our parents, like our teachers, like all these things create our mind as a child. And then we take that and then we go into life. And that's like how we base everything else that we learn is based on this like subconscious programming from the age of 0 to 7. But that's in another episode. I don't want to go into that. Okay, real quick so going into day 3, my morning started with my cup of coffee, and I took probably 3 sips of my coffee, and I didn't want it. Absolutely no desire. And that's how I know some things just become a habit, that it's not even our body that wants the coffee or whatever we're putting in our body that early in the morning. It's the habit of having that hot, cozy beverage, right? So my body was loud telling me like, this is not good. This is not serving you. Just don't drink this. And so I had 3 sips of coffee. So it went from 1 cup of coffee to a half a cup of coffee to like 3 sips of coffee. And I was done. I just drank tea the rest of the day. I made a really creamy with coconut milk tea. And that was my cozy beverage for the morning. And that felt so much better than the caffeine. And then by day 4, the morning of day 4, when I was going to break my fast, I had no desire for any cup of coffee. I had 0 coffee on day 4. And that was a huge feat for me. Before I met my husband, Matt, I barely drank coffee. I think I had a coffee pot, but it barely got used. Most of the time I used it just to brew like hot water. But barely ever made coffee. I would more so like splurge every once in a while on like a mocha or something at a drive-through shop. But it wasn't until him that I started drinking a lot of coffee. And at one point, he had actually started working as a espresso technician for a local cafe, and we were getting free coffee all the time, whether we stopped in and got like an actual coffee made, or we were able to bring home fresh ground coffee, like roasted in-house. Like, oh my God. Like, so at that point in my life, the caffeine level, the intake was like so gross. So gross, honestly. Like, to think back on how much caffeine we were intaking and then put on like an energy drink or like pre-workout, like during those times, like we were like living, breathing at the gym. Like that was our life, was going to the gym all the time. Like fitness was very, very big in our lives at that point. And so, I mean, can you imagine like sitting now looking back on it, that is like overloading your body with stimulants. And it's mind-boggling to me that I allowed myself to do that. Because now I can now being at a place where I can really like hear my body and I can focus on what my body is telling me. It was probably screaming at me. But when you're not aware of it, you don't know any better. So that's the whole purpose of this, is like becoming aware of everything. And it's not always easy. It's so simple, but it's not always easy. So I thought that was really, really cool. I found it really interesting that my body wanted nothing to do with coffee, and that my body couldn't even tolerate it anymore. So that's really cool. And even to this day, this was, when did I do that fast? I think it was around the 8th of January. And so only like a few weeks ago. And so since then, I have stuck to only 1 cup of coffee in the morning. Sometimes I want more. I have that feeling of wanting more. But I've been having my husband only make 8 cups of coffee in our coffee pot instead of the 12. And so with how much coffee he brings with him to work, I literally only have a cup left in the pot. And so I don't make more. Now I have gotten like a coffee, or the local coffee shop that I love to go to. Shout out to Wolf Club Coffee in Parkland, Washington. They are my favorite people ever, and they make the best coffee and the best in-house syrups. And they make a special, what they call their prayers. And it's like a natural energy drink made from honey and hibiscus tea. So freaking good. And you can make them in different things. But anyways, so sometimes I do to get that. So my caffeine intake has gone back up, but it gradually went back up. But it stayed. Like I haven't ingested any kind of energy drink in months. So that I feel like is like a win. Like, yes, I am finally figuring it out. I'm allowing my body to have things that I want and crave, but in like major moderation. And so that's a huge feat for me, to come to a place where I was just like putting all this stuff in my body without even thinking about it. And now I'm in a place of awareness, and I'm aware of every time I make a decision to put something in my body. And that is magic. That is a place that you guys should really strive to be at. If I can say anything, to be aware of everything that you're putting in your body and your mind and everything. So let's get into, I want to talk about night 3 This was the start of my Kundalini awakening. Now, when I embarked on this, I had thought that you get this Christ consciousness, Kundalini awakening, like right off the bat, like in this first fast. And I was really hopeful for it. But to be honest, I don't think, well, I know, I was told definitely by my spirit guides that this wasn't my full Kundalini awakening, but I did experience a deep, profound cleansing. That's probably the best way to say it. I literally watched the Kundalini go up my spine, and I'll go into how I saw that and whatnot. But it was, at this point, it was just clearing some extra things out of the way. So I'm really excited to embark on my next one, because I don't know if I'm going to receive the full effect then either. But I'm hopeful that with more practice and clearing out my temple, that I will achieve it. I know that I will. And we're all going to experience this one way or another. It just depends on how much focus that you're actually like putting into it. But every single person will go through this naturally. But there's just some of us who are eager to do it, that we start, putting into practice things to like make it happen sooner. So I knew that on night 3, I wanted to take a bath, a very cleansing bath, and do some like deep meditation. Excuse me. And so I drew a bath, nice and hot, put pink Himalayan salt in there and some big rose quartz crystal in there to open up the heart space. Rose quartz is so good for opening up your heart space. It's very connected to the heart chakra. So if you're dealing with any kind of heartaches, or you just want to open your heart more to love and have more compassion for people and things like that, like surround yourself with green, like color green, or rose quartz. Those are big, huge openers. Or drink some like beautiful cacao. So I drew my bath, did all those things, and set an intention to open my mind and my heart to achieve my Kundalini awakening, and or to receive my Christ consciousness. And so I get in the bath and I do this, deep breathing exercises, and I've been starting to do like a body scan, a mental body scan of my body, and like thanking each part of my body. And so before I even like relaxed back into the bath, I started at my feet, and I just like touched my feet and said thank you for, allowing me to walk on you every single day and keeping me upright, and, apologize for not giving, my feet the attention that they need when they're tired and aching, and, get me through my day-to-day life. Like, we don't take the time to like thank and like touch our body in a way that's not sexual. Touch our body and be grateful for this body that we have. And so I started putting into this like gratitude for each part of my body, and I'll say a little like something to each part of my body depending on what it's done. And like especially for women, like spend a little extra time on that belly, especially if you've had kids. Like it's kind of sad and sickening that as women we go through this beautiful thing of giving birth and like literally bringing in new life into this world. I truly believe women are like walking portals. Like, we bring life into this realm, and that is powerful. Like, it makes me really emotional, because I never really saw it that way. For a long time, I actually held resentment towards my daughter for a couple years, and I'll go into that probably in a different episode. But I held this resentment towards her because at where I was in life before she came into this world, I thought I had it all. And then she kind of like completely 100% changed the trajectory of my life. And at that point, I thought it was not a good thing. But now I'm at a place where I'm in awe and grateful for the opportunity to be home. And that's kind of that's part of this Kundalini awakening and this Christ consciousness awakening, is being able to see differently and see clearly. It's just really powerful. And so that's how I know I have experienced something, but I don't think it was this full awakening. But hold yourself a little bit more in this belly area, and thank your belly for hosting the beautiful beings that are in your life now, that you birthed into this world, and love that area, even with the stretch marks, even with the looser skin. Because I tell you, no matter how much dieting I do and how much exercise I do, it is really hard to get rid of that little area. And so instead of like trying to wish it away, maybe change the way we look at it and be thankful and grateful. And then miraculously, it'll just start changing, because we are looking at it in a place of love instead of a place of hate and disgust. The way we talk to ourselves and the way we look at ourselves is really, really important. And if we want anybody else to look at us in that same light, we have to first start looking at ourselves in that light. So I do this, feet all the way up to my mind, all the way up to my brain, thanking each part of my body and just checking in and seeing if there's any like places that feel like stuck or hurting, and like just spending a little extra time in those spaces. And so I did that, and then I just laid back into the tub, and just like the amount of, salt that I had in there, I was like floating. It felt like I was floating. I had my headphones on, and then I started this deep meditation, and it was a Kundalini Awakening meditation. And it was like, I could see it was like this whole black void. And if you know anything, creation happens in the void, in the darkness. And so it was just like black. This is what that was in my mind's eye. Okay, you guys. I was in this void of black, but I could see my body. My body was naked, completely naked and vulnerable. And I could see each energy center. We have 7 energy centers, starting with our root chakra is red, our sacral is orange, our solar plexus is yellow, our heart is green, our throat is blue, our third eye is indigo, and then our crown is violet. Some cultures talk about it being white, but I go with the violet. So that is the rainbow, the true rainbow. Has our 7 energy centers. And so I could see myself naked with these energy centers, these big, like it was like this, trying to describe what I see and put in words can be so hard, because there's just not the correct language in the English language to really like make this seem so powerful. But basically it was like beam of light in the color, and then in the center was like the red, like, so like the root chakra was like, you could see it just like shining out of my base, the base of my spine, and the energy center was like circling like super fast, like just like and like vibrant red. And so that was all my energy centers were like lit up. So I knew I was connected. And then I saw the Kundalini rising, the Kundalini energy is like kind of like a serpent, like going up into our body, going up our spine. And so I could see it, and it started red at my root, and it was just like slowly spiraling up my spine. And it would get to a point, like it would get to my sacral chakra, and it would just like spiral there. And it told me automatically that I have some blockages in my sacral chakra, which our sacral chakra is a lot of between our root and our sacral chakra is a lot of like creative energy, sexual energy. If we have any sexual traumas, we hold it there. And I do, and I've been working on it. And so it was just sitting there. It was sitting there. And so when I heard that I had those blockages, and I'm hearing it inside my mind, it's all happening within me, right? And so I sat there and mentally talked to myself and told myself that these traumas, these sexual things, these things that men had said to me about my body in my past, like they no longer have an effect on me. They are no longer going to stand in my way. They are no longer going to have an effect on my current marriage now. And as soon as I said those things and like commanded those things away, it started coiling up to my solar plexus, right? So like anywhere that it got stuck, it would tell me something. It would tell me, and you could tell that it was like not moving up. And that's telling you like you have a blockage there. And so I was like, at this point, you guys, in the bath, I'm like vibrating, like every inch of my body is like tingling, these like major tingling, vibrating sensation is going on. Like my body is full of energy. And it's a beautiful energy. Like I feel held, if that makes sense. Like God, source, universe is holding me, in this space like a baby. And, so it's spiraling up. As soon as it gets to my heart chakra, you guys, it transforms into this vibrant purple. So it was red spiraling up, and then heart chakra transformed and it started being this vibrant purple going up into my throat chakra and my third eye and then out my crown. And so it worked its way all the way up into my crown. And then it was just this awe, this like most beautiful, tranquil quietness, if you will. And I just felt clean. I felt held. I felt seen. Like talk about a pure love, pure unconditional love. That's how I know this is of God. This is of Christ. This is what it's all about. Is achieving this connection is so beautiful. And then in those moments, I heard and I felt that this was the first clearing. And what's interesting is I had pulled cards before embarking on this, and I had asked Spirit, am I going to achieve my Kundalini Awakening this time? And my first card was a no. And it was really kind of disheartening. But right then and there I said, I'm not going to accept this answer. The humanness in us, the ego likes to get in the way. And so, yeah, I just kind of was like, in my mindset was just like, nope, this is going to happen. And it did happen for me to an extent, but it was definitely like a gentle, motherly, fatherly, voice that just kind of says, you did feel something. What you felt was something. But this is not the big something that you're going to achieve later on. So after experiencing that, I was so wiped out. It was so weird, you guys, because now granted the bath was really hot. And I gotten out of my meditation and I was just like, I was left in awe, but I was like, oh my gosh, I feel super lightheaded. And I had to I got out of the bath and I just had to like lay on the floor because I was hot, and I was just wiped. Like, talk about an energetic wiping. And plus, obviously, being on the fast, I was already physically wiped. So I slept like a baby that night. Oh my goodness. Like, it was like this major restoring feeling. That I think that's just the best way to say it. It was transformative. It was restorative. I felt like a new human being when I woke up on the fourth day, when I could break my fast at 8:30 in the morning. Wow. It was magic. And I'm so thankful that I did it. And now I know that this will become my practice. I have never felt so clean and so clear, like the amount of clarity that I got on some things. Like, I journaled so much little things I would just like jot down in my phone. Like, things would just come to me and I would just have to like write it down in my phone wherever I was at, or, all these things. I was taking note of all these synchronicities that were happening in the day to day, all these angel numbers, and then like little messages that would come through like on my phone or like YouTube, like all these things. Like, these are all these different ways that, our spirit guides and angels and source can all communicate with us, is through what we listen to and what we watch on TV, when we're scrolling on social media platforms, and like ads come up and like things like that. Like, they can speak to us. They use these things to speak to us, and you just have to become aware of it and trust. That's the biggest thing. Is a lot of people today just say, oh, that's a coincidence. Oh, that's just a coincidence. They aren't coincidences, you guys. They are synchronicities. They are your ancestors and God and spirit and your angels. And they're trying to communicate with you and get you on the right path. And so please, if you take anything away from this, know how powerful you are and that there's no such thing as coincidences. Mm. Mm, mm, mm. Okay. The last thing I really want to talk about is day 4. Day 4 was breaking my fast, and I broke my fast with homemade bone broth that I had made like the week before and put it in the freezer. And bone broth is so nutrient dense. It's literally taking out all the collagen from the bones. This was chicken bone broth. So we had a bunch of, we had deboned a bunch of chicken. And we just tossed it all into the crock pot and let it cook away for, I think it was like, I don't know, close to 36 or 72 hours. So it was really nutrient dense, getting all of the benefits of those bones out of there. And I think we put like carrot and onion and, herbs and stuff and as well. And so it's just so good. And a banana. And the amount of gratitude, again, I can't explain enough or reiterate enough how much gratitude I felt and how much gratitude I continue to now feel, and I've become so hyper aware of things. And I'm so grateful for like all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it matters, and all of it is here for a purpose, and you can be grateful for all of it. Because even our hardest moments are moments of learning and moments of teaching. Everything that we've struggled through in life has taught us something, and we were meant to experience it for a reason. Every single thing. And I say that with great passion and staring you guys right in the eye, because every single thing you've endured in your life, you planned it. You picked it out for yourself because you knew how fucking strong your soul is. And you need to know that you can do anything that you put your heart first and your mind second to. I met up with my girlfriend, Jessica, my co-host, Jessica, that day. We had a meeting with a potential space for our upcoming business that we're going into together. It was a really good meeting, and we went to lunch afterwards, and I could barely eat. I had ordered some pozole for lunch, which is like a Mexican or Spanish soup that has hominy and this really delicious broth. And I think it's pork, bone-in pork that's in it. And it's served with, this one was pretty plain. But usually it's served with like some radish and some avocado and sour cream, and lime wedges. Oh my God. It's delicious. And it was really authentically made. It just didn't have all the good toppings that I usually put on it. But it was so good. And I felt so bad in that moment that I was really not eating, and she had treated me to lunch. And so there was part of me that was like feeling really guilty for not eating my meal. And I want to say this part because I think it's super important, for people to realize when we start having those feelings of guilt, to stop it right then and there. And I know a lot of people probably force feed themselves because they feel guilty, like, oh, I should finish my plate because they're starving children in China. Like, that's a part of programming that we then don't listen to our body when it's telling us that we don't need any more food in our body, because we are programmed to feel guilty because there's potentially starving kids out there. That's not a healthy way to view things, period. That's my stance, and I'm sticking to it. Never feel guilty for not finishing food. You can take it home and have it later, but if you're in the United States of America, you know that food portions here are insane, like in-fucking-sane. And you should never feel guilty for not being able to finish a huge ass plate of food that you didn't ask for all of that food, right? So if they would actually make proper portions for people, then we wouldn't have that fear, guilt, and shame, going on. So I felt this guilt creeping up. And so I finally had to say, like, I'm so sorry. I really I'm enjoying my food. I really love it. But my stomach is like the size of nothing after not eating for 4 days. So I was like, I can't eat anymore, but I was like, I'll take this home and I will eat it tomorrow for lunch, and I will feel like I'll be so thankful, And so it felt good to, voice that and clear that out of the way and not hold on to that shamefulness or that guiltiness of not being able to, eat much of my soup. So that was really cool to experience. And again, I say this awareness is everything. And that's been like the most beautiful part of my journey, is like being so aware of all these things, being so aware of my mind chatter and the things that I say in my head, because the more aware you become, the more you can be particular on how you say things, how you talk to yourself, because our inner world creates our outer world 100%. Whether you're ready to believe that or not, one day you will, I promise you. But our inner world really legitimately creates our reality. What we feel on the inside, we are projecting on the outside. And so if you can, this is one kind of example that really sticks out to me, is, have you ever been pissed off or upset in your own head, and then you go to a grocery store and everything that's going on in the grocery store irritates the shit out of you? And people aren't nice. They're always in your way, like all these things, right? It's because your inner world is not in a good place. So when you go out into the world, you're going to get reflected back what your inner world is to you. So be very mindful of your inner world, so that way your outer world mirrors back what you want. That's all my notes. So all in all, you guys, I think this was the most magic I've ever felt so far on this journey. And it just keeps getting better and better. Like, I can't wait to see what this second fast does for me personally. I won't probably share in details much about it, because this is going to be just my personal spiritual practice that I'm going to embark on every single month, to just clear out my body, clear out my mind. It's like almost a reset. It's like every single month you get this opportunity to reset your body. And when you can actually do it once a month, to me at least, I don't have to worry so much about making all the right choices throughout the month, because I know that I will be able to detox and clear it out and just regenerate my body. If you start doing some research on people that have done this for years, you will see that they are literally like aging backwards. You know, some spiritual teachers that I follow, they talk about this being like the secret to like reverse aging. You ever wonder why, like in biblical times, like people lived to be like 500 years old? Because they were practicing things like sacred fasting. And it was something that their cultures just embedded into their programming, that they just grew up doing these fasts all the time, and their body regenerated and they lived to be so long. And if you truly want to know my perspective on that, is I think that we are going back into those time periods. Humans are going to start living a really long time, hundreds of years, because age is just a number. It's what our mind is telling us. And so if you're constantly in this, like, I hate getting older, aging sucks, aging is hard, blah, 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 then it's going to be hard for you. But if you go and look at it like, okay, I am 70 years old, but I am stretching every single morning, because if our body is hurting, why aren't we stretching every single day? If our body is hurting, why aren't we taking care of it in a natural, productive way? Society has gotten so sick that when our body is hurting, we think we need to go get some sort of pill. But what your body is telling you in those symptoms is saying, get down on the floor and stretch my body out, stretch the muscles out, stretch the ligaments out. Like, your body is tight and hurting because it needs to be stretched, not taking some pharmaceutical drug to make the pain go away. So then you're muting, the pharmaceutical drug is just muting your body's ability to communicate with you, because it's just masking symptoms. You're not being healed from the problem. Your body is still aching and hurting. You just don't feel it, and you don't have that communication with your body anymore. So to me, that's the biggest thing I gained from this first Sacred Secretion Fast, was the ability to hear my body, the ability to communicate with my body. And that is pure magic to me. And that's just the beginning. And I can't wait to see where this journey goes. Like I said, I probably won't share a whole lot about, the moving forward of it, but I guarantee you'll probably be able to see within me the success of putting this kind of practice into practice. So I really, 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 really hope you enjoyed today's message. I hope that it was interesting to you to hear more into detail of what this Sacred Secretion Fast looked like, what it's supposed to actually do for you. And let me just disclaim this, that every single person is different and every single person's experience is going to be different. What I experience may not be what you experience, and that's 100% okay. What I experience isn't anything better than what you experience, and what you experience isn't any better than what I experience. We are all experiencing exactly what we need to experience in this moment. And just know that there's always room for growth. There is always room for change. And you, my dear friends, are in complete control of your own life. Thank you so much for tuning in. Drop me some comments if this message found you, if you loved what I had to say, if it brought you any insights or clarity. I would love to hear your feedback. And until next time, so much love and light.